Comic Book Savant, episode 479. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, we're going to be doing a comic book discussion. We're going to be going over the state of DC Films as a film company. Warner Brothers have had a lot of ups and downs with this their movie division for DC Comics, also known as DC Films, and I wanted to go over kind of the timeline of things that we've had and some of the things that are currently going on amidst of all the craziness, and even before everything happened with the pandemic, kind of the state of DC Films and where things might be going in the future. But before we get into that, as always, I'd like to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. It's a great resource if you like the content that you hear over here. If you want to find more comic book related content, it's a great one-stop shop where you can find literally hundreds of different comic book related podcasts. You can find shows like my own, like that's a single person podcast. You can find roundtable discussions or partnered. It's a lot of different varieties, and you can find podcasts on individual publishers, teams, individual characters as well. So there's so much variety to choose from. So again, if you have a moment, stop over to the Comics Podcast Network over at comicspodcast.com and check it out. Now let's get back to the meat of the episode. Again, I have been planning to do this episode for a while, then everything with the pandemic hit. So I've kind of had to modify it because a lot of things that we were scheduled to get has been pushed back, or the slate has been changed around, and it's still up in the air because we're still in the midst of this pandemic. Certain areas, I know here in Texas, they're starting to try to ramp up and opening things back up at the time of this recording. We don't know how that's going to go depending on what part of the country you're in. California, they're remaining to lock down, I think, until July. I think the last announcement came down as of this recording. So a lot of the, as far as the studios and stuff, they're trying to still figure out projects that are different stages of production, and as well as when movie theaters are opening up. Because as of this recording, certain drive-thrus are starting to open up across the country in a few brick and mortar locations, but it's still touchy on when we're going to get back to, I guess, the cliche, to our new norm, and what that's even going to look like. And it has greatly affected not just the motion picture industry, but the entertainment industry as well, because a lot of outlets and services are going to start running out of new original content because of the halt that production has taken across the world when it comes to that industry. So it's very interesting. Now, I wanted to look at what movies we do know about right now that's in some form of production or had some type of filming started at this point from DC Films. We have Wonder Woman 1984 that, as of this recording, is slated for August 14th of this year. It was just set to come out, July 3rd or something, July 4th, right before the 4th of July. Now it's pushed back to August 14th. Is some rumblings going on if Tenet, which was supposed to be, it took Wonder Woman's old slot for July. If that's pushed and it doesn't come out at that time, it might take the August 14th slot and then push Wonder Woman 1984 even further back, which we do know that Wonder Woman 1984 was slated to come out last summer. So if it gets pushed back, and I think the rumblings right now, and this is not confirmed, nothing else has been announced at this point, but they were saying like if it's pushed back, it would take the December slot. So it would push this movie back even further, and it's changed release dates so many times at this point. So it remains to be seen what's going to go on with Wonder Woman 1984. Again, I've spoke about it on previous episodes where I wasn't overly impressed by the trailers I've seen, but at this point, you're starting to hear rumblings about leaks coming out all over the internet, spoiling the movie at this point, because it's probably at some variations people have seen footage at this point. So at a point I thought they might do a just home release As we've seen different studios flirt with that idea. We've seen, like Disney with their Disney Plus streaming service. They've moved the movie that was slated to come out in theaters, like Artemis Fowl, that's going to be coming out soon on Disney Plus. Onward, which was the last movie I actually saw in theaters when I was visiting Connecticut, right when the pandemic kind of hit off. That only had a theatrical run of like 2 weeks, if even that, and they turned it around and got it on pretty quickly to Disney Plus as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if they keep moving it with the demand. Will they just try to release it on digital or on their streaming service, Warner Brothers, and it's going to be launching HBO Max the end of May. So, I mean, it was rumors for a while that maybe they might roll that service out to bolster subscriptions to that new service as it launches. All that, it could still be in play. We just don't know at this point because we're still dealing with a ever-changing situation that changes day by day, hour by hour. So it still remains to be seen where we might land with this movie in it when it actually releases. The Suicide Squad, James Gunn they had completed filming. He's been editing the movie since the shelter at home order had been put in place. And so that's been coming along. He's updated on, Twitter and on social media numerous times about that's progressing well. That's slated for August 6th of 2021. So hopefully, by the time that release date comes, it will make it. The Batman, that movie had we're in the early stages of filming when everything had to be shut down on the production side. So I think as of right now, the release date we have is October 2021. That might be pushed back. We don't know. We're starting to hear rumblings that a lot of studios want to see about getting back filming stuff by maybe the end of summer. Some people are saying, and some people in the industry saying it might be next year before any major film productions will start going back in front of the camera. So it'll be interesting to see. But some studios are flirting with different production methods to try to get some of these movies back on track, because it's kind of be crazy because all the shifting dates, a log jam of movies that are already completed that can't come out because theaters are not open. It's becoming a real issue, and different studios have done different things. We had when the pandemic first hit off, we had quite a few movies that some had the short theatrical runs before theaters closed, and they came out for a 48-hour rental for $20. We had a new thing that just happened. Scoob was slated to come out in theaters. They moved it to digital or home release. They give you an option for 48-hour rental for $20 or pay $25 and just own the movie. So it's still like a very fluid situation, and a lot of studios are trying to figure out like kind of which way is up when it comes to that. But Batman, like I said, was in very early stages. I don't think it was even filming a month. It was filming a couple of weeks, maybe a month. All production got shut down on that. But that was set for October 1st, 2021. It'll be interesting to see if it makes that date whenever production might start back. We do know about Black Adam, which is supposed to be coming out December 22nd of 2021. I don't know if that was filming or where that was in production, but that's another movie we know that's slated. We have The Flash that had just recently announced they had another director. I think this is like director number 5 that's been attached to this film at this point. Andy Muschietti from, I think, It and It Chapter 2 fame. He was recently announced as being the director on the film. The release date we have set for it that they announced at that time too was June 3rd, 2022. So more than likely, I would like to say this movie is going to be safe as far as where it's slated for release. It remains to be seen because, again, we don't know when full-scale production on film and television is going to ramp back up. So a lot of this stuff, when it does, more than likely will have to be fast-tracked to make sure it hits these release dates. We have Shazam 2 that's slated for November 4th, 2022. again, it's far enough out that it appears that it will be able to make that date, but again, we just don't know at this point. And last but not least, we have Aquaman 2, that's slated for December 16th, 2022 as well. So those are the kind of movies we know that are in certain that were in certain phases of productions that actually have release dates. Now, again, we've talked about a lot of times previously with DC films, they announced a whole ton of movies. They try to do what Marvel has done over the years, where they would do like a phase or slate release, and they would talk about all these movies and gave different release dates to, and made all different kind of announcements about different people being attached to these films, and all of them have kind of we have gone silent. We had the Joss Whedon Batgirl movie. We had all the whole scandal with him and the debacle after Justice League hit. We do know that Christina Hodson was writing a script for this. Christina wrote Bumblebee, and then she wrote the Birds of Prey movie, which did not do well. Bumblebee did well, or at least I enjoyed the movie. The Birds of Prey movie I've talked about in depth in the review for that movie. So I know she's still attached to writing that, and they've attached her to writing something else as well. I can't remember what it was over at DC Films. So they're believing in her. It's kind of been hit or miss so far in the few projects she's had actually released. So, but we have no release date at this point. We had the Steven Spielberg movie, Black Hawks. We heard about that maybe a year or two, almost 2 years ago now, that I thought was set to come out in 2021 or something like that. We haven't heard anything about that since that announcement. We had a Cyborg movie when they originally set up the slate of films that they were going to be doing for the DC expanded or extended universe. We haven't heard anything else about that. Deathstroke, we had that whole tease at the end of Justice League, about that has fallen to the wayside with Joe Manganiello. We haven't heard about that. We had a Gotham City Sirens film that was announced that we've heard no progress on. We've even heard rumors that the director, I think on social media, said she was spitballing and coming up with concepts for Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn kind of sequel where they might want to introduce Poison Ivy. So I don't know if Gotham City Sirens will then morph into a Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn sequel. That remains to be seen because that movie did not do well financially. So I don't know if a sequel is actually going to be in place. We haven't heard any official announcement. We just have heard rumblings from the director on social media in regards to that. We had when the original slate of films for the DCEU were announced. We had a Green Lantern Corps movie. We don't know where that is anymore. That was supposed to be out like this summer, I think. It was supposed to be 2020 or 2021 originally. Nothing on that. We do know it's a Green Lantern television show that's going to be going to come out for HBO Max, but we have no idea when that's happening. It's just been announced as a thing. But we don't know any of the parameters or any further information on that. They announced the Jared Leto and Harley Quinn movie with Robbie. I don't know with that because we don't know what Jared Leto's status is with DC Films and or even the role at this point. So that was something that they announced. They have Justice League Dark that was announced as a film. We had an announcement that J.J. Abrams' production company Bad Robot will be producing a Justice League Dark show for HBO Max. That news came down maybe a couple of weeks ago now, because my time is blurring together with this shelter at home situation. So it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that was announced. So we don't know when that might come because that was in the preliminary stages of announcement. We had the Avery DuVernay and Tom King. We know that they were writing a script for The New Gods with Avery DuVernay directing the film. she made an update a couple of weeks ago that they're still doing another draft of the script. I think she said it was like the fourth or fifth draft of the script. So I don't know where that movie is in production outside of they're still trying to get a script together for that. So that's a whole thing. I guess that's still in some early stages of being worked on. That's something that might come out. We had Nightwing that was announced. We heard about it. We haven't heard about it in quite a while. Don't know if it's still a thing, if it's still going to come out. We also heard about they had announced a Trench movie was coming. That was a spinoff of Aquaman. That I thought that was supposed to come out before Aquaman 2. At this point, because of everything going on, it's been a while since I last heard anything about it. So I don't know when or where, if that's still a thing, but they did announce it. So you can see it's way more going on than what we could see with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's shifted a lot for studios in general. DC Films was already a mess. This hasn't helped at all with the constant changing of dates of Wonder Woman 1984. It's already been a gap since we last had a DC, films movie. Because I don't know what we can classify Joker as, or even Birds of Prey. It's loosely tied to these to Suicide Squad, but it didn't progress. The last one we really had to progress the overall expanded universe would have been, I guess, Shazam. And this is one of their tentpole characters. So the fact that this movie was delayed a year, then the dates because of the pandemic keep shifting. It's I don't know. I don't really know what they can do. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they had already kind of positioned themselves that way with over promising and not delivering on all these different announcements they've made, and they keep shifting on the fly instead of sticking with a direction and supporting it and seeing it through properly. It's just become more and more messy, and I'm becoming more and more disenchanted with it all. I'm not really excited about any of these films that they have that are set to come out outside of maybe Aquaman 2, which is so far off. It remains to be seen when or if we might actually get that film. I've enjoyed content like off of DC Universe, their subscription service, like Titans. I enjoyed what I saw of in their original movies, because I still have Doom Patrol to watch. I don't like horror, so I'm not watching Swamp Thing. And I loved Young Justice when they brought that back, or The Outsiders. Young Justice Outsiders, I think, was the series. And I think that supposed to be more episodes of that coming. We've had 2 seasons of Titans. Doom Patrol season 2 is going to be premiering soon. I think in June, if I remember correctly. That's launching soon. So it's good content in and around DC, but not DC films directly. And I've enjoyed their direct to video, home video movies, their animated movies. They've done, well for me and had my interest. But as far as their actual DC films, live action film division, I'm not excited for Wonder Woman 1984 at this point. I just want to see it to get it over with, because I felt like, we've got jerked around a lot about just what that movie is, and I really hope for their sake that it delivers after all this. It just has built up the anticipation, and I think people are just going to start losing interest. So, I think their logic of, I understand, because what they've invested in the movie, you want it to be released in theaters for it to potentially make as much money as possible, but the constant delays and rescheduling of the film, and with the pandemic, I don't think, and if theaters are just kind of opening up, I don't think by August, at this point, how things have been handled, that I'm going to be comfortable in August to say, hey, I'm just going to go sit in the theater and watch this film. So I feel like at this point, you might as well just cut your losses and put it out direct to video. And even if they upcharge the $25, I would pay it to see it. I'm going to buy it anyway when it comes out, so I'll go ahead and pay that elevated if it was like with Scoob. Me and my wife purchased that. We just did. Why would I rent it for 48 hours for $20 when I could pay $5 more and just own the movie? Even if it's not good, I would have paid that much, if not more, going to see it at the theater, between concessions and the movie tickets themselves. So I feel like I can still support the movie and and still get that entertainment, because interest for me has just totally waned, and I just want to see the thing at this point and go on to the next thing. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. I appreciate you guys so much for all your continued support. I've been working hard on pushing out as much content to you guys as possible to keep you guys entertained in the midst of all the craziness. It's kind of been tough at this point. Things are kind of running together, blurring together for me. But I still enjoy doing what I'm doing. I enjoy interacting with you guys on the Facebook group. If you haven't joined that, it is facebook.com/groups/the Savant Society. You can request to join. Once I see your request, I will approve it. I'll introduce you, and you can come in and tell a little bit about yourself, your comics journey, and some books you're currently reading or what have you. And we just are a community that talks comics, get to know each other, and have a good time. So do that. If you like what I do, you want to see more of it, I have the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/comic book savant. I have content there. I haven't shot any new videos in a while, but they're literally over 120 some odd videos from before everything kind of happened and I slowed down shooting videos. I want to pick back up doing it, but right now I'm just concentrating on getting as much other content out there as possible. But I will be back shooting videos soon. Also, if you want some cool merch, I have a Teespring store. If you go to comicbooksavant.com, you'll see the link to the store. And I have about 4 t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to support what I do and help the show, you can order some merch, or you can also check out my Patreon campaign, which is patreon.com/comicbooksavant. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a patron and get access to a Patreon exclusive extra podcast feed, which is called Comic Book Savant Extra, where I do a whole nother weekly podcast there that is totally brand new content. So if you're gonna go and stir crazy and you're looking for some more entertainment, again, for as little as $1 a month, we have tiers ranging from $1, and they max out at about $7 at the highest tier. That goes back and it supports me in creating the content I do, so it helps improve the show, this podcast, that podcast, and even the YouTube. Any content that I create, it goes to help me make that a possibility. But with all that being said, I hope everyone is staying safe in the midst of our new norm, I guess. And you're staying safe, and you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your family. That's all I have for you guys for this episode. So until next week, you guys stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.